Hi, and welcome to the Shared Path. I'm Maggie Linton. Today, we have an absolutely amazing man with us, a man of many hats, and that's what I will call him. And we're going to talk about his life and some of the many different neat things that he's doing right now. It is Gary Johnson. And as you can see from his board, he is a very busy man, runs the calculationstalkshow.com. Has Gary Johnson, just in general, is a busy father, grandfather. Oh, we're going to talk about sweet Olivia, as well as doing a real businessman who understands. He's a consultant. He has worked for the government, continues to work for them, as well as many other things. He runs blackmeninamerica.com. And when I say he runs it, the idea came and he has made it a complete success, as well as Master Chef, Gary, and then his wonderful book, 25 Things. I think that's when I first met you, was when you were on my show, wasn't it?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Let's begin with you and growing up. Washington, D.C. was really your base, wasn't it?
Yeah, I grew up, was born and raised in Washington, D.C. My mother was one of the first female police officers in the city. She rose to the rank of sergeant and she retired as a sergeant and then went ahead and got a job working for the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, investigating the assassination of Martin Luther King. And so I was born and raised in a city. My father was a DC city employee, taxi cab driver for Capital Cab back in the day. And I went to DC public schools. So that's how I got grounded. Got a good work ethic because everybody in my neighborhood made sure you did the right thing.
That's right. And we always hear the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. But throughout our lives, it really has been that. And you have been one of those village people making opportunities for many other people, especially young people, and getting them moving in the right path.
Yeah, back in I guess the early 2000s, around 2004, I had an opportunity to work with some youths. Um, I just retired from the government, been out about 4 or 5 years on my own, and my company got a contract with the DC public school system. And there was a program called Be the Game, which was partnership with George Mason University. And we hired high school kids or high school age kids to teach middle school kids STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And we paid the children. The children got training from George Mason University, the young high schoolers, and then they would come out every Saturday morning at McKinley Tech High School and they would teach the kids. And it was a great opportunity because even some of the mothers said, my kid he does this during the week, that during the week, but he won't miss that Saturday morning program because we really were able to pay the kids a decent wage. Matter of fact, I look back now, they were making $25 an hour 10
Should have been
years
one of
ago.
those kids.
Yes, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
a lot of people aren't making that now. So it was a really good opportunity, and a lot of those quote kids, young men and women, now have jobs in the tech field. They're doing very well.
To get it young, you even think back 10 years ago, games and things like that were becoming extremely popular, but there weren't as many Black faces being part of that game community. I have a friend who lives in Florida, Felicia Hatcher, and she started Miami Coding, she and her husband. And part of that was to bring young people in to show them the possibilities within that engineering background.
Yeah, I mean that's what having the partnership with George Mason University, and there were some Black professors and associates there that helped us, and certainly the kids got into it because, like you said, they were all playing games anyway. And
Yeah.
so it was very intuitive. So if you could just make the link that you can be better at history, be better at science and math by using game connections, that's what really helped.
Right. And to also create games that you weren't seeing at that point.
Right. And a lot of them became game developers and they would go to and have internships with the university. So it was a win-win all the way around. There was a guy named Rick Kelsey who got me into it. Be the game.
And then you brought in the bus. Let's talk about that because I've been online, you've sent me links. It was pretty cool too. Again, just opening that door in a different sort of way.
One of the things I learned in business is networking. It's building and maintaining relationships. And
But isn't
so,
that in life in general? Isn't
well,
that what
yes, that's
it
a life
us?
lesson. Yes. And so I met a man named Chauncey Dunham who worked for Priority, Travel out at Super. And he and I had connected when he owned a limousine company. And one of the jobs I had in my career was I was a limousine driver.
Was
And so
too.
yeah, I
I,
love that job.
I
I
know, I
love that
did.
job.
Yes,
And
yes.
so I connected with Chauncey, and he was now with an executive motor coach company. And he came up. I said, come up and see on a Saturday, see what these kids are doing. And he came up and he was impressed. And he said, how can I help? And so to make a long story short, he would provide transportation. And later on, we worked with the city and we ended up helping the city get their first technology bus. And it was through Chauncey and the city and working through them. Chauncey and I later hooked up and started a company called Broadway Theaters Educate, where we took young people to Broadway, not to, and he had connections on Broadway, but so they could not necessarily be actors, but to be set designers, costume designers, and see all of the things and the skills that were going on backstage that would make a Broadway play. And it would be an all-day trip that we would sponsor, and they would see a matinee. For many of these kids, they had never seen live theater. And then we take them to Sylvia's in New York, and they would have lunch or dinner, and it would be an all-day trip. And we just wanted them to see the possibilities. You can
Oh,
make a good living being behind the scenes as a makeup artist or costume designer.
yes, you can. I want to talk about a little bit of your government work because you are a man who has crossed many agencies and still working some mainly as a consultant. But the, we all keep saying the government is broken, but there are so many moving parts to it, aren't there?
Yeah, I was very fortunate that I got a government job when I was 19. I was a GS3 mail clerk, and 18 years later, I was a GS15, and I had the opportunity to work in the White House. I worked for three assistants to the president for national security affairs. I was 23 years old when I went into the White House as an intelligence analyst. I started my career with the Central Intelligence Agency in their mailroom. And so I kind of worked my way up, became an intelligence watch analyst, and just learned the trade. And again, it was networking. I mean, I was a kid from DC, and I was like, here I am in the agency, start off the mailroom, but I had a strong work ethic. There were people who had all kinds of degrees, but my mindset was no one will outwork me. And so
Mhm.
I ended up putting myself through school, and it took me 11 years to get my degree. But I was working full time and doing it. And as a result, because of my work ethic, I was getting jobs and I was moving up the ranks pretty well. And I was getting jobs in a variety of disciplines. So learning analysis, working at the White House was in the West Wing of the White House was, I remember my mother, one day I asked my mother when I got the offer to go down to work at the White House. And I called my mother and I said, hey, Mom, I got this opportunity to work down at the White House. What do you think I should do? And my mother paused and she said, how many more of those opportunities do you think you're going to get? And I said, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
And when I look at politics today and politics then, I was working in a Republican administration, but no one cared that I was a registered Democrat. We
Mhm.
were all about analysis and intelligence, and whatever that was, that's how we presented it. It wasn't no one. I can't remember in my almost 4 years there anyone bringing up my political affiliation. It was just, what does the science, what does the intelligence say? And, through that opportunity and working for the Central Intelligence Agency, I learned a lot of life skills that prepared me for launching my business. I had the opportunity to travel to different places, meet a lot of different people. And by the time I left after 18 years, I was actually ready for the world thanks to my government experience.
All right. Speaking of being ready for the world, blackmeninamerica.com, the premier online magazine. But where did that idea come from? And you really seized the opportunity.
I wanted it to be a book, but I remember we were coming back, me and my friends were coming back from a trip from Vegas. And as we were flying into DCA, Reagan National, I was looking down and it was the day of the Million Man March. And I could just see all these people. And then I was like, yes, this is the Million Man March. I had this idea to talk about Black men because I wanted to balance. I was a diversity practitioner for the government. So I was always looking at things from a diversity lens. And I wanted to balance the image of Black men. And I thought I'd do it in a book. But this was like 1995, and the internet was just kind of creeping up, learning, and I thought the internet might be a great equalizer. So I just kept working on it and working on it and writing things down. I taught myself how to build a website, and in 2001 I launched it, and I had an idea. I better put some content on that site for women also, because if women are involved, most guys will do a
We'll
lot of
follow.
things if a woman it tells them, and I just wanted to make sure I had some relevant content for women. And to this day, it's really worked out. It's gotten a lot of awards and being an online magazine. The demographics have shifted now. It's like 55% men, 45% women go to the site because there's relevant content. I try to keep it newsworthy, but not, like tabloid like. And so it's been very good. And it's nice to own your own media
Yeah.
because then you're not beholden to people or pressure. And you get some pressure, but then you say no and move on.
Yeah, because you're in charge.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, this kind of slides also into the book because the book kind of came out of what you were noticing on blackmeninamerica.com. Talk about that because it's not a very big book, but boy, do you hit the nail on the head in so many ways.
I used to travel to some of my clients on the subway, and I was working on this book. And one day I just thought, I'm going to write down the things that really mattered because I was going up and down about whether or not I should quit the government. I remember I was talking to my father, and he said, "You're going to do what?" I said, "Yeah, I'm thinking about quitting my job." He said, "You got two kids, 4 and 7. What are you going to do?" I said, "I want to be a stay-at-home dad. And then I want to launch my own company." But my father was from a mindset, you got to provide for your family. You have a good government job and you're going to roll the dice. I'm like, yeah. So I was doing that. I was riding the subway, and I would notice when I rode the subway, people would sit on the subway and they would read books. And mostly women would have small books and they would just put them back in their purse when it came to their stop. So I said, I want to write something that's short, compact, and meaningful. And so one night, I just decided I'm going to think about and start every night before I go to bed or whenever it comes to me, I'm going to write down 25 things that really matter. And then I'm going to expand on each one of those thoughts and then try to keep it relevant. And one of the things I did learn from Black Men in America, I used to work with authors and try to help them. And so I said, you better have a good editor. And so at the time, I had all this stuff, and there was an editor that I used to work with at the agency, and her name was Carla Scopolitis. She was a great editor and a senior executive. And I asked her if she would edit my work, and she did. And so I said, if I have good edited material and it's relevant and it's meaningful and impactful and short, a short read, I said, I think I have something. And that was in 2008, and it's still selling on Amazon. So it worked.
And those 25 things have never changed.
No,
It is consistent, it is thought provoking, and it is a way for people, if they're looking for a way to start a path or on a path and questioning themselves, you knock it out of the park.
and I put reflection sheets in there. I wanted
Yes.
it to be a workbook because I was a trainer. I was a corporate trainer. So I said, I'm going to make this a reflection of who I am. So you have to reflect and put some things down. If it's important, you have to write it down. Then you can come back, which I've done 4 or 5 years from now, looked at where I was. Perfect example is my weight loss journey. Oh my goodness. I mean, don't
Will
even get
lead
me
us to
started.
Master Chef, Gary,
Yes,
and riding that bike.
yes. I was on there last night,
Yeah.
almost before it got dark, because I've learned that wow, I can't talk about it if I don't do it. And good
Mhm.
health and good rest is part of, things that really matter in life. You want to be here for your family and make a difference and just model the appropriate behavior. That's what I really try to do is talk is cheap, but if I can model the appropriate behavior, I
Yeah.
think I'm better off, especially with a guy who has two black sons. I've
Uh-huh.
got to try to set the example.
Let's talk about that Master Chef spark too. I'm a person who totally believes that your destiny is shown to you quite often, but way often we ignore it. And your path kept leading you to wanting to be better. Master Chef Gary, talk about that path.
I like to cook. I like to eat. I love to eat. And I would be at work sometimes. I was still working. And by now I had a job. I was doing the 9 to 5 like everyone else. And I thought, let me see if I can just make my own spices because I would buy spices in the store. I'm not gonna mention any names, but I would say this is too salty, it's got too much sodium, this doesn't taste like this. And I went to a place called Herbal Infusion, Fort Washington, Maryland. It's a health food store. I stumbled in there by accident. I was in that neighborhood. I was literally waiting for a pizza and was killing time because they said it would be like 15 minutes. And I walked into a health food store and I met the owner and her mother. And I was telling them about what I wanted to do. And the owner said, you should make your own spices. I have a wholesaler of organic spices. And she gave me her contact. And I just ordered a bunch of spices and I would work. I would tease people and say I turned my basement into a meth lab because I had spices all over the place. Then I would go to my office at work and I would give out samples of cucumbers, vegetables, fruits, whatever. And I'd say, hey, give me some feedback on these spices. And after about 19 times, my coworkers would say, okay, this one, I don't know what you have, but this is the one. This is the one. And I just kept it up. And then COVID hit. And I said, you know what? I'm going to turn this into a business online. And
Mhm.
that's what I did. I would check the domain name because people kept calling me Master Chef Gary. And I'm like, I didn't go to culinary school, but they said, no, no, this stuff you're bringing in is good. And I searched for the domain name Master Chef Gary was available. And I built the site. And then we came up with the Master Tonic, which is not even mine. The Master Tonic belongs to another distributor, but I started pushing it. And the owner of the company called me and said, are you Master Chef Gary? And I said, yes. He says, people are coming into our store asking for this tonic, and they're asking for Master Chef Gary's tonic. He says, I had to look you up and figure, who is this guy? He says, but you've added to our sales. Let's partner. And so we have a partnership. So I sell the Master Tonic, and it's been very instrumental in my health and weight loss journey. I used to be on diabetes medication. I started taking the tonic, and I was a skeptic, believe me. When the owner's mother, who I now affectionately call Mama Ivy, told me I should take the tonic, it may help me. I was like, she's a nice lady. Let me just buy a small bottle, you know. And then I started going to the doctor, and my numbers were changing, and I couldn't make. The only difference was the tonic. So I told my doctor. My doctor was skeptical. And after about 3 months, my doctor said, you know what? stopped taking the medicine. That was in 2016. And I haven't been on it since. It curbs my appetite. So people make their own, have their own things that happen with the tonic. I can only tell you about my journey, but I'm down 40 pounds from where I used to be. And if you go to the website, the photos don't lie.
No.
And so I've hit the wall here at 40, but that's okay. I
Yeah.
still have another 30 to go, but through getting rest and some intermittent fasting and just being healthy and portion control, it's a lifestyle change that I can embrace. And that's the difference between what I used to do. I used to snap back, but this is something I don't feel like I'm being deprived. I feel comfortable. And I also broke the cultural conditioning that I had growing up as a kid from my grandmother and others. And they all meant well, but they said you had to eat everything on your plate. And that's what got me in this mess because I
Hmm.
overate and
Yeah.
I felt like I couldn't do it. And once I broke that conditioning, I'm like, I'm okay now. And
Yeah.
so I feel good. I feel good.
Yeah. You also ride your bike a lot too.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that
I
that's
I,
that
I do cycle.
exercise that is fun too. And just being outdoors and breathing that fresh air can make such a difference, can
I get a lot of thoughts too on that bike trail.
it? Yeah,
Get a chance to think.
it's wonderful. All right. As we look through the journey that you've made, and you've done some good path choices, uh, let's talk about the
Oh
calculationstalkshow.com.
my
That's one of your
goodness.
newest ventures.
Yes, that I got the whole concept of calculations from I was at work, still working, and a woman came into my office and she was talking down to me in a way that ordinarily I wouldn't put up with, but we just had this meeting and my assistant came in after the meeting and she said to me, "Wow, I heard some of that in the office. You took that well. I'm surprised at how that went, the way she was talking to you." And I told her, she's from the Philippines. I told her, I said, as a large Black man and a senior Black man in this office, I have to make a calculation as to how I'm going to react. Because if I'd reacted like I wanted to, the whole buzz around the building would have been, wow, Gary made so and so cry. Did you hear what he did? I said, so I have to make these calculations. Now, the calculation I made was the meeting is tomorrow. We'll see what happens in tomorrow's meeting. I'll get what I need tomorrow. And so, and then I thought about it. I've had to do these calculations all my life. And not necessarily in situations like that, but even in happier situations. And everybody has to make them. So I thought, let me see if I could turn this into something. And I started, and again, COVID was here, and I started having game night. And I would come up with different scenarios and the calculations that people had to make, and they would be humorous scenarios. And then I thought, let's make real life scenarios. And again, I went, looked up the domain name, it was available. I built a website, I built something on it. And then I started interviewing, using my contacts from Black men in America, talking to people, not just celebrities, but just ordinary people, and learning what are the calculations that they've had to make in their life to continue along their path. Now, along the way, I've had some nice people to talk to. Wow, Melba Moore, Robert Cool Bell from Kool and the Gang, Olympic gold medal winners, Dr. Mel Pender, Mesa, V.
Yes.
Jordan. I mean, I just go on and on. Love me some Mesa.
Yeah.
Um,
We both are fans of hers, aren't we?
yeah,
Yeah.
Mildred Muhammad, the
Mhm.
ex-wife of the DC sniper.
Mhm.
Uh, can you imagine the calculations that she had to make? And so when I talk to people about these calculations, they're teachable moments. I get feedback. People are like, whoa, I had no idea. And so that's how calculations was started. And now the show can be it's on Spotify, it's on Black Men in America, and we're working to even expand it. But that's how I started calculations. What are the calculations that we all have to make sometime in milliseconds to make sure that we can continue having our decent life and a decent
Yeah,
day.
and that's one of the things. I was just sitting here as you said that. I think about all these kids. There, so many young people in particular, or even the older people who feel like an AK-47 is the answer to things because they're mad about something, or a kid takes out a gun and shoots, a classmate or something because they made him mad. It's like how quickly a decision like that can change your life forever. And was it really worth it?
I know. And this cyberbullying and things like that, it's so easy. People really get bold behind a computer screen and a keyboard. And they say things and do things they wouldn't otherwise do. And it's really hurtful. So yeah, people, I feel sorry, not sorry. Well, it's just challenging, more challenging, I think, with technology, with younger people today, all the things that they have to go with. And like school shootings or just mass shootings, it's become normalized now for
Mm-hmm.
some people.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about it on the news and people go, oh, another shooting. Like, whoa, when did that become normal?
Well, when people can carry guns openly in so many different states,
Yep, without
and
training.
it's without training, without many of them without any background checks. So they said, oh, that but they bought it legally. Well, yeah. Well, I have a harder time buying medicine at CVS
That's
than some
right.
of these people do getting guns. What's
That's right.
wrong with that?
Try
And
getting some allergy medicine.
thank you.
If you
Yeah.
want.
How old are you? Well,
That's right.
I earned these gray hairs by getting to the point where I can get medicine. But it's very hard. I look back at your training that you've done over the years and the mentoring. Um, when people you gave an example of what people need to think about before they make a move or before they answer something. Give us some other pointers other than I'll get mine tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I had some great mentors. Since you mentioned mentors,
Mhm.
I had great mentors coming up of all races and genders, and I was willing to learn, to listen and learn. And it was a black couple named Floyd and Jacqueline Dickens. They wrote the book called The Black Manager, Making It in the Corporate World. And I had hired them to work for our agency to management, teach management training to our managers. And one day, this couple told me, they said, "You need to come out to our seminars. I know you're the boss, but come on out to our seminars and see what's going on." And what they were doing when I went out there, they would say, "Hey, Gary, why don't you open up the seminar? Or why don't you do this module?" They were really giving me a platform to get comfortable presenting. And after a while, they told me, they said, you could do this on your own. It's just a matter of, when you feel comfortable. And I thought about it. And I said, I've done a lot here at this agency. And I'll tell anybody right now, Floyd and Jackie Dickens changed the entire trajectory of my life because that's when I quit after 18 years. I was a stay-at-home dad for a while. I started slowly building my business. And through that mentorship, and another woman in DC area named Diane Sutton. These are people who mentored me. When I told people I was stepping out on my own, Diane Sutton invited me to her house to a Christmas party, a holiday party. And when I got there were people from all kinds of businesses that she wanted me to meet and network. And she told me, she says, now that you're out here on your own, we will not let you fail, baby. We will not let you fail. And so I've tried to do those same things to other people and encourage them, but it's been teachable moments, listening, being willing to learn. In my case, not letting anyone outwork me. I mean, people get emails from me at 2 in the morning because I'm still, but I'll nap in the afternoons. I mean, I know the importance of weight loss and health and at least trying to get 7 hours. But when I get driven, I get driven. And so I'm energized by what I do. And that's also good because you can't do your best work if you hate your job. And I
Yeah.
tell people, everybody's got a talent. Everybody's got something that they do better than anybody else. You just have to find it And you
Hmm.
have to be willing to work.
Right.
I meet a lot of smart, talented people that for whatever reason, Maggie, they're not willing to work.
Right.
I'm like, you gotta hustle. And the failure, you have to learn from your failures. I can't tell how many times I failed, but I'm thinking, all right, what
And
can I
we
learn from
all.
this? Yeah, what can I learn from this? And so it's been a labor of love, but I love helping other people. I mean, I get some kind of intrinsic high when I can just help other people. I met a couple who was on the Master Tonic, and they sent an email to the website and said, "Hey, we're sorry that we won't be able to order the tonic. We don't want you to think it's anything about you or your site." And they basically explained that they went on hard times. And I'm like, I remember what it was like, and the
Hmm.
tonic was helping them. So I found out where they lived, and I delivered the tonic to them, and that made me feel so good, because I can now afford to help somebody else out with the health. And the guy was just both of them, they were very thankful. And I said, pay it forward when you get a chance. That's all. Pay it forward.
Hmm.
And so I hope that's what I'm doing. I hope my sons, which they still get it. I'm trying to
Yeah.
be a mentor and a model for my granddaughters. Got three granddaughters, so um,
Like I mentioned earlier, Miss Olivia, you two have a special connection. And but even more so, I see you because you post online a lot of times the joy that you get from being a grandfather and a
oh my
father
goodness.
and how special that is. And it's a work in progress, as is every day that we live. But you make
Yeah,
it
even trying to
special.
help my sons sometimes be better parents.
Hmm.
Sometimes you don't want to be the overbearing parent, but sometimes I remember pulling my son aside and saying, I would consider going back to her and telling her that daddy made a mistake and he's sorry. You can apologize to her. I said, because I had to do that with you. I said, you want to make sure you said it the right way. And I'm not an overbearing parent, but when I see something that I really think can help my kids, I will tell them, and I'll say, I think you should consider, because they're grown men. I
It's
said,
not what you say, it's how you
that's
say it.
right. I would
Yeah.
strongly suggest that you consider an alternative way to deal with her, because the girls are 12, 10, and 7, and Olivia's 7. She's already FaceTime and announced that she's coming to spend the summer again. So she's already let me know. So
Get ready.
get ready. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still cleaning up glitter from spring break. So I'm learning.
Exactly. Um, so much of what you just said, it's not what you say, but how you say it. I hear parents sometimes in grocery stores and stuff like that hollering at their kids and just crazy. And I'm going, if you're talking to them in a public place like that, what do these kids have to get at home? And being beaten down
Yep.
in at home is bad enough, but doing it in public is even worse. And parents really do need to check themselves, don't they?
Yeah, there's no course for being a parent. Some people are parents because they didn't want to be parents, but they just became parents and they're doing the best they can, I guess. And sometimes, uh, I, sometimes the cycle just repeats itself. I know
Hmm.
someone who was at 28, a grandmother at 28,
Whoa.
and I'm like, yep. And so then I thought about it, and then she had her daughter at 14. Her daughter had her daughter at 14. The cycle just, at 28,
No.
you don't know. No, grandmother 28. Yeah. As Chris Rock would say, she's at the club, you know. So no, no.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, but it's tough. I really
It
feel
is.
for children and senior citizens.
Hmm.
We have to do a better job of taking care of our children and senior citizens. That's pretty special to me.
Right. Very true. All right, let's talk about you just posted today about Uncle Nestor. How was that bourbon?
Oh,
That
Uncle
whiskey.
Nearest. Uncle
Nearest. I'm
Nearest
sorry.
premium whiskey.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just had my first sips of whiskey on Saturday. But what I learned, I was asked by the local African American Cultural Society to do a video. If I would help them out. They were doing a Black History program and on Uncle Nearest. And what I learned through Black Men in America, I told them I was familiar with him. Nathan Green was a slave who taught a young boy named Jack Daniels how to brew whiskey. And of course, everyone's heard of Jack Daniels,
Yeah.
but no one knew that Nathan Green taught him how to do that. But it was a young female entrepreneur named Fawn Weaver who just stuck to the research. And now she owns and the CEO of Uncle Nearest, because that was his nickname, Uncle Nearest. And the Jack Daniels Museum recognizes Nathan Nearest Green in their museum.
Now.
Now, yes, now. And
But
so,
again, more American history
yes,
that a lot
yes.
of governors and things like that don't want you to be taught. Guess what?
Don't want you to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fastest selling whiskey in America. And their profits are well over 100 million and maybe 200 million by the end of this year. So thanks to Fawn Weaver, Uncle Nearest, telling that story. But I have to admit, I just told everyone on Facebook Saturday, I took my first sip of whiskey. I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to burn my chest like cough medicine, but whatever I had was pretty smooth.
Yeah.
But then I learned a new phrase called RWL, because one of the older gentlemen told me, he said, hey, be careful, you better RWL. I'm like, what is that? He said, run, walk, and then lay down. So I put my glass down. That's it for Uncle Nearest and premium whiskey.
Yeah. All right. Gary, it has been a joy talking with you as always. Yeah, you and I do that little side.
Yes.
I have to tell you, folks, Gary helped me get on the air. Background you see back here with me fading in and out is also some of his great work. You are a man who continues to give and very, very special. And very much like me, I pursued my destiny, which is starting my show, The Shared Path. But there are stories like yours and so many others that we need to share. And hopefully somebody has learned something, need to get the master tonic. I've had some, I need to get back on it. 25 things you need to know are just really wonderful. Go to the calculationstalkshow.com. Anything else you want to give us, Gary? Because you're a busy man.
It's all kind of woven together. So when you go to one site, you can kind of work your way to the other, but they're free recipes and health recipes on masterchefgary.com. The website, Black Men in America, who hopefully have relevant content to help people.
You do.
And I'm just out there trying to help others make a difference, I'm just an ordinary man trying to make an extraordinary difference.
And you do. Once again, it's Gary Johnson. Check him out. BlackMenInAmerica.com is definitely one. But Calculations Talk Show, I love it. It was such a joy. It was a lot of fun. And folks are really honest. How late would you stay out, huh?
Oh, yeah. That's one of our most, how long should a married man stay out when he's hanging out with his friends? As one person said, when he sees my car in his driveway. So
Thank you, Gary.
thank you very much, Maggie. We'll be in touch.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
definitely will. Folks, all I can tell you is check him out, Gary Johnson, and it's blackmeninamerica.com and masterchefgary.com for recipes and many other things. You'll just absolutely love him. He's wonderful to talk to, and he's a very special man. And for you out there, thank you once again for joining us on the Shared Path, and continue to seek peace and spread lots of love. I'm Maggie Linton.
Oh.